Good evening. Welcome to Gorecast live stream hockey talk. Well, our beloved Leafs are not playing tonight, those who cheer on the Toronto Maple Leafs. But we all know the Maple Leafs are back in the series. But I'll leave the discussion with about the Toronto Maple Leafs rather for last. But we have all kinds of hockey every night practically, and lots of good series getting on. Right now, later on, I will invite my daughter. My daughter lives in the north, and we are currently together for a family wedding. Our youngest daughter, Ellison, will be marrying Evan Kent tomorrow. So the family are all together and we're enjoying the company of each other. Right now I say hello to Lonnie Sweeney there. Burn Pike is on. Hello to my sister Joyce and Gerald, who are also attending the wedding. I'd like to say hello Kenny Martin, good evening Gord. I'm a little more optimistic now. Well, we're back into the series, but lots of things can happen yet. And anyway, let's take a look at what happened. Hello, Lonnie. Glad to see you back on. We have a big half a family reunion on the go where our youngest daughter is getting together tomorrow. And so anyway, it's very good to see my brothers and my sister, and you know what, to see family belonging to Evan. My youngest daughter, Ellison, is marrying Evan Kent from Ballon. My daughter will join me on the program, and she will sit by my side. She's a big Maple Leaf fan. She's been in Nunavut for the past 10 years. I'm glad to see her back with the family. And I asked her, she knows her Maple Leafs. She follows them very closely. Her and her husband, Will. Both of them are currently, they reside in Nunavut in Rankin Inlet, but they have decided that they will be coming out of the north once her school year finishes, and she will be moving to Alberta, where she'll be moving with other family in Grand Prairie. So anyway, again, Melissa will probably have a little bit to say about that, about the move, and I'm sure she's a little bit anxious about the move, being set in, I guess, quite comfortably in Nunavut, Rankin Inlet, as she's been in Nunavut for the past 10 years. So anyway, guys, let's look at last night. We had Winnipeg defeating Minnesota by a score of 2-0. The Winnipeg team are a very strong team, definitely a Stanley Cup contender. Winnipeg defeated Minnesota last night 2-0. Now that also puts Winnipeg up in the series by a score, or by a 3-1. I think Winnipeg will go on, and as I mentioned earlier, the fact that Winnipeg lost the Ryan Suter, I think, was a big loss to Minnesota prior to the series. You take off any star player out of a lineup, and there is no doubt in my mind that you will miss them. The coaches will juggle, and they will do their best. But you know what? Those star players are star for a reason. Anyway, Winnipeg beating Minnesota last night by a score of 2-0, put them up in the series by a 3-1 margin. Washington last night come up with their first. That would be their first win of the season, defeating. Who did Washington defeat? I think Washington. Just check that for me, Melissa. Washington defeated. I wrote down the wrong team. I'll get to that. Vegas. No, Vegas keeps winning. I'll get to Vegas and I'll get back to Washington. Vegas defeated LA 1-0 again. Very close, all the games. And Vegas now they defeated Los Angeles by a 1-0 score, and now they clinched the series. people are saying there, Vegas has my mind blown. This is all I can say. That's all I can say as well. Columbus Blue Jackets, yeah, right on. Washington, folks, Columbus Blue Jackets won the first 2 games, and right now we have Washington winning in overtime last night, and Columbus Blue Jackets are gone ahead, or up on Washington 2-1. But that series is far from over. Because I had Washington to beat over Columbus Blue Jackets. I think a level of confidence will get in Washington once they win. So anyway, folks, thank you for putting in the Columbus Blue Jackets there. I also like to say hello to the folks that are tapping in there, because I'm trying to work my mind, where did I go wrong on the Washington series. It definitely was the Columbus Blue Jackets. Like to say hello to Jerry Parsons there, Lynn Sweeney there. Other names, if I mention, I'll see as they roll up again. And again, I am lost on Vegas. The Vegas defeating LA in 4 straight. I don't think anyone. I like to say hello to Will Burton there, just tapping in. Hello, Will. Melissa will be joining me shortly once I get to the discussion on the Toronto Maple Leafs. But I am lost. I am totally lost on Vegas. Right now, not only did Vegas win, folks, they were in the top 10. Then they got up against, you know what I'm saying, Los Angeles, a big team, a rugged team. And what would happen? They beat Los Angeles in 4 straight. First of all, we have 31 teams in the NHL. We break it down to only 16 teams making the playoffs. Further than that, Vegas wins the first round, now putting them in the first year of existence, putting them in the top 8. Unbelievable. Totally unbelievable. Good evening, George Withers says to Gord, and a great big good evening to you as well. With Vegas, I think from now on, maybe I should predict Vegas, because I don't think I predict Vegas on anything this year. It'll be interesting to see who they line up with. And like you say, Austin Clark says Vegas may win the cup in the first year. Austin, I no longer would say, no, it's not possible. I would just say, I just shake my head, because no one in their right mind would have felt that Vegas would be in the top 8, would be going to virtually the quarterfinals in their first year of existence. It's totally unbelievable. There is just no explanation. No one in their wisdom of the people that think they know soccer would have ever predicted, and we don't know what's yet to come. Anyway, on tonight we have Pittsburgh at Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh are leading that series by 2-1. That series now is back in Philadelphia, and I would think Pittsburgh will win the series, but again, Philadelphia gave them a big fright in Game 2 in the series. But when they went back to Philadelphia for their first game, lo and behold, the best player in hockey today, Sidney Crosby, took reign, he took charge, and he put Pittsburgh up by 2-1. Again, I'm feeling this should be a Pittsburgh victory in the series. Tampa Bay got a nice scare. They weren't won their first 2 opening games in Tampa Bay, and it went back to New Jersey. New Jersey won their first game back in New Jersey. And now that series is 2-1. Ken Martin says, I got to agree. It will not shock me where Vegas goes now. No, it can't shock us. They have shocked the world. So if they keep shocking us, they'll keep shocking us, and there's only so much they can put what shock can do to you. George Weather says Furries has helped Vegas as well. He's got a lot of experience. No doubt, George, I'm with you that Marc-Andre Fleury, you know, he is a quality goalie and has Stanley Cup rings. Maybe that's where they're getting the great leadership from. But I also would think it would be their coach, Gerard Glant, undoubtedly. They even have a nomination for that, for Coach of the Year. There should be no other two candidates fall in the same category. And we've had some great coaches this year. But so far as I'm concerned, it's hands down to Gerard Glant for Coach of the Year. And I'm sure all of you people that are tuning in tonight feel the same way. We also have, on tonight, we have Nashville at Colorado. Colorado came back and won their first. Nashville won their first two games at home. Not as easy as what I felt it would be. So Colorado, I think, still were pushing. But when they went back home, they gave Nashville a big pound. But as a result, right now, Nashville still leads the series, and I think Nashville will go on. Jerry Person says Penguins' power play was on fire. Penguins' power play is first in the league all season, and undoubtedly the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm gonna have to see them lose before I feel that they've lost. The Pittsburgh Penguins are going for a three-peat, and they're definitely, I feel, going to be in the top 8. So we'll see who they match up with, but it's not done yet. In all due respect to Philadelphia Flyers and supporters of Philadelphia. But I would think, Will Burton says, that's my daughter's husband, says, Gord, who is Calgary going to look at for new coach? How about Suter again? I don't know, Will, where they are going. They felt that they had turned around their season last year. So where Calgary goes, they have a great defense. They have a good offense, but it seemed like they slid backwards this year. So who they pin it on, and where they will go with regards to direction, I don't know, Will. But it seems to me Calgary do have the soldiers there. I just think if they were led the right way, they brought in a new goalie this year, Smith, but I don't think he played up to par on the whole overall schedule. He got injured, he came back, but he was great at times, and other times I feel Mike Smith didn't play up to playoff potential. Garrett Strang says, I don't agree with all the hype Vegas is getting as an expansion team. They have all the players who, let's see, I'm trying to read Garrett's here. Write it a little shorter, Garrett, and write it in 2 comments, because if it rolls over, I can't get to see it all on the screen. I don't agree with all the hype that Vegas is getting as an expansion team. They have all the players who fell just short of protection by their former teams. This team has a lot of experience and talent. Garrett, I'd come back at you with this. Everyone on that team, coach, general manager, goalies, every player's on defense, with the exceptions of their first year, every one of them were dropped by their former NHL team, Garrett. They are a group of castaways. Now, mind you, some of them were good. Let them get the first line. Let them get power plays. But overall, this team is an expansion team. They deserve every bit of recognition that they're getting because they were nothing other than a group of castaways that the teams you are allowed to have. What is it you can protect? I believe is up to 50 players. Having said that, all the teams have to work within a salary cap. And the teams that had every one of those players that moved, their coach or their management, didn't see fit to keep those players on Vegas. So it was a lot, I feel, of judgment that was misjudgment done by management. A lot of those players could have helped their own team rather than protecting some of the players that they did. Excuse me, and it's also proven here right now that that those players could have helped the teams that let them go. I would think a lot of teams would like to have some of those players back right now. But I know, like you say, Marc-Andre Fleury, you couldn't keep two goalies. So they went with the younger goalie and Murray, and they let Fleury go. That's a little different, but still no. He was still a castaway. Garrett Strang says the expansion team like Atlanta and other teams didn't enter the league were not given. No, the rules have changed, Garrett. There will be a new expansion team coming in again. I don't think you'll ever see another expansion team play at the level that this Las Vegas team has played. And the rules won't change when this new team comes in and draws from all the teams right now that won't be able to protect their whole list. Again, I'll ask you to. I love your comments, folks. I'd love to be challenged on whatever you see fit. Keep your comments a little shorter and then put in a second comment if you like, because if not, it just rolls over. Okay, Garrett is saying the rules are different. The leagues were not given the same picking rights as Vegas when they enter. You're probably right, Garrett. I wouldn't argue that on you, but let's see the next expansion team that comes in. I can guarantee you, or I would think, Garrett, you never know no more after what I've seen this year. Anyway, we have Nashville that is ahead of Colorado by 2-1. All I can say here, Philadelphia, New Jersey, Colorado, that were wild card teams, right now are behind in their series 2-1. And good for Philadelphia, good for New Jersey, good for Colorado. And the other wild card team, who were the Los Angeles Kings, that's the only one that I predicted that would win. Out of the wild card teams, they got virtually knocked out in four games straight. No way would I've ever thought LA would get knocked out in four. Jerry Parsons, it's disappointing. It's a little disappointing that Bob Cole wasn't invited in the postseason. Okay, I've been asked that privately. I think I made comments on it publicly. I'm a big Bob Cole supporter, just like I think Newfoundland and Labrador, and a lot of cases in Canada, we do support, especially when I go with our own province of Newfoundland and Labrador. And we do support our own. Having said this, guys, like to say hello, Tristan Slaney and Chris Haley. Having said that, Bob Cole now, folks, is 83 years old. Somewhere along the way, I feel, as we age, I think the time comes that we move on. I know anytime, anything that I've been involved with over the years, I think we all have a shelf life. And for those, like I've been involved for maybe 15 years in regards to doing color commentary for that would be CHCM at the provincials and the nationals. There's a lot more work goes on behind the scenes. And I think the amount of preparation that goes on, I don't know if, one would really realize that, you could stumble. And no disrespect to age, because you know what? There's no one that respects their elder more than myself. Having said that, I think the time comes to move on. And I think management do have the right to make those decisions if you don't make them yourself. That's my stand on with regards to life. Ken Martin says, I agree, Gord. I expect great time soon to be up. And like you take Grape's job is making comments with regards to who's in the game, who should be in there. A lot of the times, Don Cherry plays politics with his game. He lives in Ontario. And, you know, I understand where he's coming from. And that's part and partial to the course of doing color, especially to the job that he does. His time will come, and it's maybe sooner rather than later. Having said that, I don't think Don Cherry's job is nowhere demanding as much as what Bob Cole's is. So, like, I think that when the speed of the play with hockey, what's that? Probably the fastest game in the world. So in order for you to be able to keep up with the speed, it's very, very demanding. And we all know with age comes, we're not as sharp once we get older than what we were when we're younger. Having said that, I realize that Don Cherry has had a Hall of Fame career. He's an ambassador. He has been an ambassador for Newfoundland and Labrador. And he always will be an ambassador. So I respect the decision of the decision makers who made the decision. And we may not know the reality or the truth of the matter. Howard Strickland says hello, Gord. Gord also says hello back. Right now, I want to get on to, and again, she's wide open. Tomorrow night, we have 2 big games. So tonight, well, first of all, make sure that everyone knows, and I'm sure the hockey fans that are following here, tonight we have 3 series on the go, and all those series are behind 2-1. Pittsburgh's at Philadelphia, Tampa Bay is at New Jersey, and Nashville is at Colorado. All series are 2-1 for the, the 4 runners and the higher seeded teams, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, and Nashville. Tomorrow night, we have a huge game again. We have Boston at Toronto, and we have Columbus at Washington. I mentioned earlier about Columbus and Washington. Washington got their first game last night, and they won in overtime. They will resume play tomorrow night. The only team that is advanced so far, Vegas, knocking out LA in 4 straight. So the Columbus and Washington should be interesting. Now I will get to, and then we'll move on to, we'll talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs. And before I talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'll ask my daughter, Melissa Burton, to join in. Melissa is our oldest daughter. Melissa, when she finished high school in St. Lawrence. Okay, let me move. A little more. Oh, you gotta move my way. A little more. Okay, alongside of me here now, folks, I'll read the comments first. Nobody can call a Leaf game like Bob Cole. Not that he has recently. Anyway, that comments were made by George Weather. Alongside of me, we have our oldest daughter. We have 4 children, 3 girls, and 1 son. And our oldest daughter, once she finished high school in St. Lawrence, went on to Memorial University, where while she was at Memorial University, she got an education degree. And I'll let you explain a little about that. And Melissa is a big Leaf fan. So Will says, that's her husband, guys. He's currently in, Will is in Nunavut in Rankin Inland. He says, we look like twins. Anyway, Melissa, give the people a little idea who you are, what education you got, and really about being a Leaf fan.
Okay, well, like Dad said, I grew up in St. Lawrence. I went to university at Memorial University, and I got my education degree. I taught for a year back home in St. Lawrence, and after I left St. Lawrence, I moved to Nunavut for my second year teaching. I stayed in a place called Kugaruk for a year, and then I accepted a position in the outskirts of Toronto, where I was in a classroom there, and that's where I met my husband, Will. And I suggested to him that we go to Nunavut for 1 year together as an adventure, just for something fun, and that was 11 years ago. So we've spent 11 years in Nunavut. In the last 11 years, I've kind of been teaching there, and I've tried a few different hats, and I'm leaving the North this year as the vice principal. I guess I've resigned as the vice principal.
Ken Martin says, I was stuck in Rankin Inlet a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So obviously you travel in the north, probably through Iqaluit there. So I guess maybe you were doing, traveling around Nunavut there, Ken. And obviously going from Iqaluit, possibly Iqaluit into Rankin, you got into troubles in flying there. Hello, I like to say hello to my sister there as well, is Goalie Pearl. Anyway, Goalie, we're all well, take care. And again, alongside of me, I have my daughter, Melissa Dunphy, who is a huge Maple Leaf fan. And when we got together for the wedding, I asked her, would she join me on my Gord cast? And she certainly did. Anyway, Melissa.
Except for I'm at Burton now.
Yeah, she's... So anyway, Goalie says hello, hi there. Will is saying, who hasn't been stuck in Rankin? Anybody that traveled through the north.
Get stuck in Rankin.
And the other thing, guys, for anyone, say, that are not quite familiar, Melissa, you give us a little bit about... Melissa teaches at Rankin Inlet, and Rankin Inlet is the home of Jordan Tutu.
Yeah.
So, Melissa, you had Jordan Tutu come to your class and visit the students of that. Let the people know a little about it.
Jordan was born and raised in Rankin, and he spent his formative years there, and then he went on to hockey. I believe it was Brandon that he played with. Every year before he had children, now that he has children, things are changed for him, but before he had children, he would come back to Rankin every year, and he would spend a week giving back to the kids in the community, coming in and coming to the schools and talking to the kids. Nunavut is a place where we are dealing with a really high suicide rate of our young people. We have the highest suicide rate in the world, and Jordan lost his brother Terrence to suicide, so he would come in and he would talk to the kids about staying in school, making healthy choices for themselves, talking about his own addiction and recovery, and really working with the kids about how they could keep themselves safe and happy. And hockey is in Rankin Inlet what soccer was in St. Lawrence growing up, and they have a really wonderful youth program there, and so it's been kind of cool over the last few years to watch the hockey program play. There are a few kids up and coming in Rankin, and who I believe we might see in the NHL someday. And then we have a couple of the young girls who are really gunning for the Team Canada, and I think we're going to see more Rankiners in hockey in the future. The program, there's a young man by the name of David Clark who runs the recreation program, and he's done an outstanding job of developing a really strong youth hockey program.
And Melissa, getting back to the Maple Leafs, Melissa, in Rankin, Melissa, who would you think that the majority of the town, the folks, the people of Nunavut, and in particular Rankin Inlet, which team do they cheer the most, Melissa?
I would say it's a 50-50 split for Montreal and the Leafs, which makes it for a lot of fun in the workplace and with the kids and stuff like that. But I found it very interesting because Yeah, my husband said there's a new sports complex being built in Rankin. That's correct. There's a giant new arena that they are building with, I think they're going to have access to a bunch of different things for as a complex as opposed to just an arena.
And Melissa, is the I guess the division is do Maple Leaf fans and Montreal fans in Rankin, they go at it with each other?
Oh yeah, big time. You know, you have little pockets of people. The kids tend to like Sidney Crosby or Ovechkin, so we have a bunch of, you know, Capitals fans and Pittsburgh's fans, but the overall general population is very much a Toronto or Maple Leaf. Actually, one of Will's co-workers is, I believe he was with the farm team for the Chicago Blackhawks for a while, and he's very good friends with Freddie Anderson. So Will and he talk quite a bit about the Leafs, but and Anderson in particular.
Okay, again, folks, the main reason I got Melissa on tonight is that we are together for a wedding, and the fact that tomorrow is the wedding, so I won't be obviously able to do the game tomorrow night. But Melissa, you start telling about when you became a Maple Leaf. Melissa's my daughter, became a Maple Leaf fan. Can you remember what Santa Claus brought you one year? Listen to this, folks.
I think both Lori and I got jerseys one year, and I might have been 10. So we grew up obviously in a Leaf house, and you know, wanting to watch with Dad and stuff. So there was one year, and I know I was really disappointed because my jersey was blue and Lori had the white one, and I thought the white one looked more girly at the time. So I was really disappointed that my jersey was blue. And actually, for the last Christmas, my husband bought me a Leaf jersey, so I now have a new Leaf jersey. So that's exciting. Yeah. My husband has 5.
Yeah.
5.
I saw there, Garrett Strang asked, does Jordan Tutu, like, is he really involved with the town, Melissa? Or is just from, rather than monetary, more so just giving back to encouraging the young people that there is a future?
So what he'll do is, and he spoke about it in his book that he wrote, he spends 1 to 2 weeks a year back in Nunavut, back with his father, out on the land, reconnecting with his culture, and out hunting and fishing, and out at the cabin. And so he stays really close to his culture that way. And so in that way, he's definitely a role model for the kids, you know, how you stay connected to your culture. So he'll come back and he'll spend a few weeks. Out of the time that he's back, he does like to spend time, you know, with his family, but he will give. It's more than just money. He'll come to every classroom. He'll spend time with kids writing about hockey and writing about their favorite hockey players and their heroes and those types of things. We do units on famous Canadians, and he'll work with them. So he's quite involved with the kids as well. He donates money every year. We have a trip we have 3 schools in Rankin Inlet. We have an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school. He'll give a trip to each school where we choose one student who displays. It's not an academic excellence. It is a kid who might come from challenging situations at home, and things might not always be easy, but they come to school and they display positive attitude and a good effort. And so he'll give them 2 tickets to one of his games, and usually depending on, you know, the schedule, it can be in Ottawa, Winnipeg, or I think last year's was in Calgary. And so he actually gives his time as opposed to just his money. So yeah, he's been a really great ambassador for the North. At times I have felt that it's a lot of weight on the shoulders of one individual to carry the entire territory, and you know, and what that looks like. It's a lot of pressure. for him.
Yeah.
And he's a young man. He's a few years younger than I am, and we've talked on several occasions about the pressure of having to be Jordan Tutu. And I think some of his addictions problems that he's dealt with have come from the weight of that, especially since his brother did commit suicide, and he kind of became a spokesperson for that as well. So it's been an interesting situation to watch and kind of be involved with, because he does come into the classroom and he does come into the school.
Melissa, obviously Maxwell Parsons feel you're doing quite the job here. He's saying, hi Melissa and Gord, doing a great job. Be careful, Gord, you don't take your job or laugh and just go Leafs go. Just listen once we come to the Maple Leafs. She'll know her Maple Leafs, guys, and she'll know how this series has gone on, and she'll be able to make what adjustments that our coach Babcock has done, and where she thinks the Maple Leafs will go for the remainder of the series, because she is well informed. And being in the north, like it's I guess in the south, maybe some weekends you do have other things that you can do. In the north, it becomes all hockey. Okay, I'll just finish up on Jordan Tutu as well, and then we'll go back to the Maple Leafs. Okay. Melissa, Jordan Tutu's parents are Bernie, dad, and Rose, his mom. Yeah. And Melissa, Rose works at, I met Jordan because I did a contract teaching at Artie College, and we went up there and spent time, because Melissa, my wife, who was a registered nurse, is a registered nurse. We went in. My wife did a contract with the hospital in Rankin. I did a contract with Artie College. We had the opportunity, because I know Melissa gave me a Jordan Tutu jersey for Christmas that I wore during one of my Gordcasts this year. So Melissa, Jordan's parents, Rose and Bernie, obviously you know them well. I met them, and I met Jordan as well. So, is there pressure in the town with regards to Bernie and Rose being the parents of, a celebrity Jordan Tutu was in that north?
Yeah, there's part of that. I mean, Rankin Inlet is a very small town. It's I think we're getting a bit bigger. We've gotten a bit bigger since we moved there, but I think we're hovering around 3,000 people. So everyone, it's small town. I liken it to growing up in St. Lawrence. Everyone knows everyone, and we're getting more transient people in with the mine. So yeah, there's definitely an element of pressure for them in the community. I think the spotlight from the book that Jordan wrote, that added a new element to what that was for them, because there was a lot of their personal life and his life growing up, and things that traditionally would stay behind closed doors that are being brought out. So there was a bit of a spotlight. Bernie is a very quiet man. Rose is the opposite, and she's very outspoken and very public and very, personable, and he's very...
I believe Rose came into Nunavut from another country.
She's from Manitoba, but she's Ukrainian heritage.
Right. Yeah.
So I think her family came from the Ukraine, but she's Canadian. So yeah, there's definitely an element of that, and it's interesting.
Okay, on to our Maple Leafs. Melissa, you started off, your mom and dad, obviously with the 4 kids. Dad was a big sports personality all his life. Mom supported the family in whatever we did. You became a Maple Leaf fan?
Yeah.
So...
For a lot of years, I kind of got away from it. I loosely followed, and then I met my husband, who is as big a fan as you are, and so then Leafs became very much part of my daily life again. Or Will is, the 5 jersey. He decides every game which jersey, if he'll be an Anderson or Burton or Matthews on any given night. That's been been interesting. And Will is a really big goaltender fan.
Okay, Melissa.
Yeah.
What I also do, I try to include the comments from the people. So I'll ask you, just excuse me for a second, and I'll go over some comments that are rolling up. Okay, Austin Clark says, where will you teach next, Melissa? Good experience up north for you. Okay, from you tell Austin where you're going and where you're hoping to be teaching at next year.
So my husband and I will be moving to Grand Prairie, Alberta. My sister Lori and her husband Matt and my nephew Nash live there. And we have extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins that are there. So 10 years in the north has been rewarding, but at this point we really want to be closer to family and to have immediate access to family on a, at least a weekly basis. So I'm hoping to teach there. My strength in teaching is with definitely with the Aboriginal population of kids, and Grand Prairie does have a fairly large Aboriginal population. So I'm looking for a teaching job, hopefully still working with kids like Inuit kids or Aboriginal kids.
Okay, Austin. Mr. Lynn Slaney says, Lynn's comments to you, Melissa, are, thanks for the education on the North, Melissa. You, too, are a great ambassador for Nunavut.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn.
Yeah, Mr. Lynn was our next door neighbor in St. Lawrence, neighbors to Mom and Dad. And Mom and Dad had 8 kids. And Lynn taught all of us in school. And did Mr. Lynn teach you?
Yeah, it taught me grade 8.
And even with my kids, Melissa now is 37?
Yeah.
37.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, but tell the world. But anyway, to Melissa, Lynn Slaney is
Mr. Lynn.
Mr. Lynn.
Yeah.
That's why, that's the way it should be, folks. Let's stick with all old school. Let's not always move ahead. I feel when I brought up the kids, all 4, the oldest when we got into the car, where would the oldest sit?
Front seat.
Front seat. So we had no dispute. Whoever was the oldest was coming on that trip, that's it, the front seat. Other than that, it was, you just rolled the dice. Anyway, on to Greg Mayo is there. Good evening, Gord. Greg is a former student of mine, Melissa. He's now, he is supervisor at electrical at CFI in St. Lawrence. Garrett Strang says, I'm sad to hear you never had a chance from the start. Good for you, Garrett. I had Garrett as a student, Garrett Strang. Yeah, I had Garrett as a student. He's a Montreal fan. And
I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah, Garrett, so I understand your long season. And Will says, carrying on the tradition, Gord Dunphy there with Will. Burton says, Joe Lundergan, Melissa. Joe Lundergan is obviously older than Melissa. Joe is a former Maple Leaf player, Melissa, that has family in Little St. Lawrence. Okay. And they were in the Corner Brook. And Joe Lundergan played with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Washington Capitals. Greg Mayo says, hello, Melissa. Austin says, thanks, Melissa. Tony says she looks both of you, Gord.
Yeah, I do. I look like both you and Mom.
Yeah. Greg says, hope you're a Leaf fan, Melissa. Yeah. She is, Greg. Oh, Greg. Yeah, just stand up a little bit. She stand up. She got the Maple Leaf jersey on here, folks. Anyway, Melissa, this season, you followed the Leafs since you were up north.
Yeah.
And her husband, guys, is from Toronto.
Yeah.
From Toronto, Ontario. She met him in Ontario. But she was a Leaf fan before she met him. But he's a crazy Leaf fan. Yeah. Lynn Hillier says, Gord, late tuning in, didn't realize this was your daughter. Hi to you both. Yeah, that's my daughter here, Lynn. So anyway, Lynn has been, Melissa, retired firefighter, a great soccer player, and a great official, and now is in retirement. But he's a big Leaf fan. So he's still got some hope yet, Lynn. Yeah. But anyway, Melissa, what did you think of the Toronto Maple Leafs this season? you know, like you obviously follow where we struggled. You saw there 2 years ago when the Maple Leafs drafted Austin Matthews. You saw when they brought in the Shanahan plan. Brendan Shanahan, Lou Amorella, and Chief Scout Mark Hunter, and then we got Mike Babcock, and on from there to Austin Matthews. What do you think of the Leafs right now?
I think we're ahead of plan.
Yeah.
You know, there was a 5-year rebuilding, and you know we're year 3 into the 5 years. So I think as a team, we're ahead of where we could be, and maybe even should be. I still think we have a giant hole on the defense that needs to be filled. You know, I think the young kids, and that's what they are to me. They're kids, you know.
Yeah, they're kids.
When I look at these all-star athletes, and I hear they're 19 and 20 years old, they're, you know, those are the age of some of the kids I've taught. So they're kids. You know, they've come a long ways, and the team has come a long ways. But we still have a ways to go, and I think the playoffs and the Bruins in particular have done their homework, and the first 2 games really showed that, you know, there's still a ways to go, and there's still room for improvement. And definitely, you know, the Bruins did their homework on our defense, and they exploited that hole big time. And Anderson can only do so much. So, you know, we need size and defense.
Well, Melissa, you know, in 2 years, only last year we drafted, in his first year, we drafted Austin Matthews.
Yeah.
And then we got Mitch Marner and Nylander. Then we have Freddie Anderson that we picked up for a first-round draft pick. Yeah. And then we still have some kids. They're now capping and coming in this year. And we have Johansson. Then we have Hyman, and we have Brown. Listen, realistically, and Boston, guys. Boston, guys, this is something that I want to explain. They have Bergeron, that's a world-class player right now. They have Marchand, that's a world-class player right now.
Yeah.
Okay, when we, like this season, we finished with 105 points, the most in the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And we had Freddie Anderson, who had most wins ever, 38 wins. Realistically, what now? Can we beat Boston? Okay, you saw the first 2 games.
Yeah.
And Boston destroyed us.
Yeah.
You saw the last game, and the Maple Leafs played a great game.
Yeah.
Can we hold Boston down and beat them in a series of 7 games?
It's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
When you're down 2 games. Now, does that mean it can't be done? It can be done, absolutely, but I'm not sure. I think losing in Boston, and not losing, but being trounced in Boston, that has to play a psychological role in the game. And I think, you know, was it yesterday? No, the day before. Was it yesterday? A couple days ago, that game was really a do or die for the Leafs, and I think we're back in it. And you know, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I think it's going to be a challenge, and you know, it'll be interesting to see. But you know, I find a lot of times Leaf fans like to, you know, Kadri. Whoa, we can't win without. I don't believe we can't win without Kadri. We've won without Matthews for, you know, a significant amount of time this season. So I don't think it's impossible, but I think it is going to be a challenge. But I will say that last year my husband and I, we went and saw a game, and we saw Toronto play Edmonton, and the star of that game and my favorite player is Hyman. He works like a dog out there on there. He's everywhere. Out of everyone, I think he's probably the most underrated.
Yeah, Melissa? And for a number of fans that have not seen the game live, I've seen as many as maybe 15 NHL games.
Yeah.
From your experience in watching live NHL games, that wasn't your first game that you saw last year.
It was, yeah. It was my first Leaf game, yeah, or
okay.
first NHL.
Did you think at the arena was totally different than on TV?
Yeah, huge difference. I find the TV is a faster game.
Yeah.
And I was really surprised by that. It's much slower. The commercial breaks, the clearing of the ice, all that, with the stuff you don't see when you're watching on TV. It adds a different element when you're watching it live. I found it interesting.
For tomorrow night's game, as far as I know, when I did my research on the internet today, is that Komarov and Kadri will be out again for tomorrow's game, unless something changes. Well, Kadri is suspended, and that's the third game of his suspension. So I feel, well, that's a done deal. But the last game, Melissa, Mike Babcock moved Plekanec, the guy that the Toronto Maple Leafs picked up. When they picked up Plekanec, and he was fourth line, he took Dominic Moore, and there was a lot of questionings around why Plekanec, because he really didn't bring anything to the game. Mm-hmm. It didn't appear that the Toronto Maple Leafs have gotten any stronger. But in the third game, when the Leafs played better, they deserved to win. I think the move to put Plekanec on the second line, and that would be in Kadri's place. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that turned the tide for it? It was a game breaker, or was it the fact that that Toronto now had returned home to play in Toronto, opposed to getting whitewashed in Boston?
Yeah, I think for me, being home in Toronto probably played a bigger part. I also think if Babcock's face is any indication of the type of coach he is, I'm sure he wasn't okay with the embarrassing display for 2 games in Boston, and they were probably read the riot act. Moving people around and trying different combinations is always good, but I would think that the Leafs were not okay with losing in that fashion in front of 30,000 of their own fans. Leaf fans are like Laurentian fans. There's no sugarcoating for us. There's no, if our team is playing bad, there's no, it's okay, we have the next game. The fans are hard and they're harsh, and rightfully so. So.
Yeah, I know. I don't know when you're at home with Will, but I know you've been at home when I coached the Laurentians.
Yeah. And
you know that you just don't talk about anything else and how upset I could be.
Yeah.
Is Will the same way?
Same way, yeah. Turns off the TV, throws the jersey on the floor, and then 5 minutes later is sitting on the couch and watching it again.
Yeah, I know, like Len Sainey folks, and I converse with Len rather regularly, and he said, like, the 2 losses. And he's been a Leaf fan 10 years longer than me, and I've been one 40 years. He was poisoned with him. Poisoned. Anyway, Garrett Strang says, if Plekanec has another good game on the second line, where does that put Kadri when he returns? That puts Kadri on the second line, Garrett. I think Kadri deserves his position for after playing 82 games. He's a 30-goal scorer, and he's learned to adapt to Babcock's system. Having said that, that gives this coach, I think, strength right down the middle, and he will then. Would he change the third line? I don't think, because it was the veterans. It was the veterans that led the way in Game 3, which I was glad to see. You had Patrick Marleau still had 2 goals. You had Plekanec, Montreal player that came over, had a great game. And you had James Van Breesdijk scoring a goal. And we also, Melissa, Toronto, number 34, scored. Did you feel, though, that added life to the city, that the people of Toronto, of Hogtown, that's who they wanted to score?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be our franchise player for the next,
10 years.
So I think any time that he scores, that's what the people want. We want to know that we're getting our money's worth, for lack of a better way of explaining it. But he's going to be the future of the Leafs, and the rest of them, they're that's all. And he's going to need a good team behind him. But fans are looking for him to display that talent that we know is there, and he's got a lot of backups there that are.
Yeah. So, Melissa, anything you'd like to say to Will? Tomorrow night, folks, we have a big wedding here. Our youngest daughter, is getting married. We will obviously miss that game, and Will is still back home working in Nunavut. So obviously, Will couldn't make the trip for the wedding, but. Where would you think the Maple Leafs, who will show up tomorrow night to play for the Maple Leafs? Will it be a real show, or will it be a gong show?
I think tomorrow is going to be a real show, and I think it's going to be another do-or-die game for the Leafs. And sometimes I find they work better under that type of pressure. The first couple games, they didn't look playoff ready, but definitely Game 3, they showed up for that game, so I expect to see them show up again tomorrow night. And I really hope that if they don't, my TV is in one piece and the jerseys aren't cut up.
Have you, Melissa, leaving the Maple Leafs out of this question, do you think there is a team that you think will win the Stanley Cup this year? Who would you predict would win the Stanley Cup this year?
I won't be shocked to see Pittsburgh win a third cup. Sidney Crosby is putting on a clinic most nights that he's playing, and this new thing of batting the puck into the net is pretty outstanding. And I'm not sure about these underdogs, the Vegas Knights. They're a story. I actually think we're watching history in what's happening with them.
I am lost.
Yeah.
I the only bet I believe I lost this year so far was on the Vegas. I lost to my uncle, but no one in their right mind would bet on Vegas. So, and I still can't level it out how this show is going on. Comment coming in from your husband there, Melissa. Gord, that goal Matthews scored was because of Babcock and what he told Matthews. Being a player like a Crosby, an Erik Karlsson, an Ovechkin, he has to be a serial winner. And Matthews knew that. Yeah. I read that article that Babcock, great comment there, Will, because it'll give me a little time to elaborate on your comment there. Babcock is saying, in order to win, you got to have players that have a killer instinct, the eye of the tiger. And Babcock has said his own explanation now. He's calling those type of players serial winners. They want to win at such a high level. So, having said that, I also read this is what Matthews wants. Is one thing, coach wanting it, but that player has got to have nothing but an instinct to win with grit, grind, and that's what we saw displayed, I thought, in the third game. Whereas in game 1 and game 2, I really questioned: are our Maple Leafs for real, or are they a bunch of boys? No, They had I didn't think the leadership came through in game 1 and 2, but I thought the coaching and the leadership of the older players, mind you, they came through. And a comment there from my sister Velma saying, "Enjoy." Thanks, Velma. And so, Will, I like your comments. It gave me an opportunity. I had, like you say, I read practically everything on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So the lineup that I'm looking, that I read today, that the Leafs would be going with tonight, and unless there's something changed, or tomorrow night, mind you, it's on Matthews, Nylander, and Hyman. It's Plekanec, Marner, and Marlowe, Bozak, Brown, and JVR, Moore, Kapanen, and Johansson, and 2 players that are still out is Kapanen and Kadri. And the defense, nothing changing there, is Riley and Hainsey, Gardner and Zaitsev, Dermott and Polak. And do you think, Melissa, and I've said it all year and I maintain it, the reason we had a historic breaking point season this year is Freddie Anderson?
Yes.
The Leafs will only go as far as Freddie Anderson takes.
Yeah, and he can only take them as far as they play. So, he has stood on his head on so many levels and in so many games. And I have really learned the role of the goaltender, because that is Will's love. He loves goaltenders, and he learns their stats and their, so definitely goaltenders are the highlight in my house, and Will loves Anderson. So yes, I do think they're only going to take it as far as he will allow them. He has to be on a wall.
Yeah, and I like the comment coming in from Elson McKay. She's the mom of my son-in-law, Matt McKay, married to our daughter, and she's saying, "Hi guys, Leaf game will be Humdinger," and they are from Whitby, Ontario, so you know who they are cheering for. She said, "Thinking about you all the more. Have a wonderful day." Again, Elson, I thank you and Gary for your kind remarks. So, Melissa, I'll put it to you. Give me this prediction. Anybody, I always ask for a prediction. I'll give you my prediction. Most of the times I'm wrong. I don't know if Dennis Thorne hasn't got a lot of the scores right to the T, but he's generally in the ball court. Will too. Eh?
Yeah.
I'm not bad, but the thing is, being the host of Gorecast, which is based on Maple Leafs, even if I think the Leafs are up against it tonight, I still predict a Maple Leaf win. There's only Jeff O'Neill that's stupid enough that would predict that Boston would win, and here he works on Leaf lunch. I figured if you were working for me, man, I'd send you for another job, And here he working for Leaf lunch. That's Jeff O'Neill talking about broadcaster there with TSN. He predicted a Boston win, and when he went to Montreal sports writer asked him, "Why would you do that?" And I'll answer you why he would do that. Because that's how stupid he was. Simple as that. Jeff O'Neill. Alani says 3-2 for the Leafs tomorrow night. Ken Merton, give us a score, Ken. Give us a few scores, and then we'll tune off. We got a family gathering here again this evening before the wedding tomorrow. Anyway, Melissa, did you make a score?
3-2 Leafs in overtime.
3-2. Okay, Lonnie, she's with you. She's saying 3-2 as well. I don't think she saw your score on the monitor there. She's saying, my daughter, Melissa, I'm going to say Dunphy, Melissa Burton, is predicting a 3-2 win for the Leafs tomorrow. Garrett Strang says 3-2. Yeah, thanks, Garrett. You were the best student I had, Garrett. Garrett, you were the smartest student that I had. Garrett says 3-2 for Leafs, and much as it kills him. Ken Martin says 3-1. I would say, I'll say Tony Edwards. Tony, good for you, Tony. You're a smart man too. I say 4-2 for the Maple Leafs. Andre Lamb say 9-1 for Boston. Andre, Your intelligence is coming true. Andre is a Washington fan. Lonnie says, great minds think alike. Yeah, it's so true, Lonnie. And poor old Andre Lamb said 9-1. George Wither said 5-2. 4-2 for the Leafs. That's the same, George. That's the same score as I got. If you get the right score, you get the right a free show on as doing color on Gordcast. Andre Lamb laughed out. Okay, LOL there. I knew what you're up to, Andre. I am hoping to have Andre sometime on my show. He's very talkative and not afraid to give his opinion. So Andre, like I told you before, you'll be welcome on my show in due course. Andre does a lot of work. Well, he's the electrician there again. I worked with him at one time. Will says 5-4 for the Leafs. Winner to Marner. Will, what's going to go on tomorrow night? Will, where the goalies going? Will, where do you think the goalies are going to go tomorrow night? No goalie showing up? They think they're playing shinny, Will? Anyway, folks, we got to go. We got a family gathering on the go. I thank you kindly for joining in. I thank for my special guest here, Melissa, my oldest daughter, Melissa Burton. And she came through loud and clear, knowing the North, knowing her hockey. Anyway, Melissa, it's been a pleasure for me to have you on Gorecast. Eric Lunderkin says 5-2. Andre Lamb said he'd love to join me. Austin Clark says 5-2. So anyway, Melissa, it's been a pleasure. Andre Lamb, have a great night, buddy. Thanks, Andre. And again, I thank you all for tuning in and enjoying. You have been listening to Gorecast live stream hockey talk, and I thank you kindly. And tomorrow night will be the night they'll make this. If the Leafs win tomorrow night, they will win the series. If the Leafs don't win tomorrow night, I think that we're backs are against the wall. Thank you so much, and enjoy your evening, enjoy your night.